So if you guys have been following the channel for a little while, you'll know that I'm a major super fan of The Last of Us video games. Yes, I love both 1 and 2, and it's
One
weird that
and
I
two.
even have to say that because they're both phenomenal. And I don't want to talk about any of the controversy, blah, blah, blah. We'll save that for later. But
They're both
I
so
got
good.
the honor of introducing Kaylee to those games. And after she watched them, she went out and did something very permanent to her body to honor her love for these games. So, yeah, I mean, we're both super fans. We're both getting married this Halloween, dressed as characters from this franchise. So we take this very seriously. That being said, I do want to say that we have, I hope, realistic expectations, and I don't expect this to mirror the games perfectly and all that stuff. I saw the Uncharted movie. I kind of maybe have an idea of what to expect. I didn't hate the Uncharted movie by any means.
It's just different.
It's
but
just different.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I definitely hope it's better than the Uncharted movie because
Yes.
that didn't feel like Nathan Drake. And I definitely need this to feel like Joel and Ellie. So now, full disclosure, we've definitely watched this little teaser
Yes.
a few times. But we're just going to play it again really quick and just to rebrush up on our thoughts. So why don't we just jump right into that and let's look at it. It's just, I love that they saved this for the end of that
I
HBO Max
know.
trailer because that just shows that they're taking this very seriously.
Yes.
Everybody I've cared for
It had a lot of impact.
either died or left me.
So there's Sarah.
I have no idea what loss is.
Pedro's doing a very good Joel impression there.
Yes.
Now, as far as that whole thing goes, I know that Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson are going to be involved in some capacity. They are credited in the IMDb page as one episode. Whether those will be cameos or
Yeah.
whatever, I don't know.
I don't know, but I feel like it'll be a cameo of some kind. I feel like they'll play characters that they run into.
Yeah, I would definitely like them to play, not major characters, right? But I mean, fine if they do.
Sure.
I just want them to have some screen time for
Yeah.
more than a, bump into them, like maybe Peter Jackson in
Right.
the, Fellowship of the Ring, where he turns around and he's eating a carrot.
Yeah.
And it's like 5 seconds long. It's like, okay, that's cool to see Peter. You see him in all the freaking, all the Middle Earth films, right? So, yeah. But with this one, it's like, I'd love to see him. Okay, so anyway, initial thoughts. What are your thoughts?
I'm really happy with what we see so far. I like that we see some spores, and we actually didn't catch it the first time that it's a body.
Blink and you miss it.
It's so fast, but then when you freeze frame it, you can definitely see that it's a body, so that's super exciting.
Yeah, there's a body that is inside the wall of the spores and the cordyceps that have overgrown them. For people who don't know what this video game is about, this is a post-apocalyptic world, zombie-esque, but not really traditional zombies. These zombies have been turned by a mutation in cordyceps that affects humans like it does zombie ants. Look them up.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It exists.
It does exist, and that's what they based it on. And Joel goes through a tragedy, and he is a broken man. And we fast forward 20 years later. Now, the games take place in 2032 or 2033, something like that. I know the show's actually bringing that back to 2022, which makes sense. I mean, so that this will be modern times that they exist within, and then we go 20 years into the future, but everything's still frozen in 2022, which, makes perfect sense. So they get into the new world 20 years later after the zombie outbreak, if you want to call it that. And Joel is tasked with something, him and his colleague Tess, and they have to take this young girl across the war-torn, apocalyptic wasteland for a very special mission that'll be revealed. I don't want to give any spoilers here. Although I will say I am going to talk some spoilers for the game. So if you haven't played the games and you don't want to know what's going to happen, you might want to check out soon, because I do want to just kind of touch upon a few things that I want to see in this show, because this is really just going to be like our hopes and desires for the show really quick, and our, as we already have kind of given a little bit of our initial thoughts. As far as my initial thoughts goes towards this, the tone looks great. We've got a very accurate looking depiction so far. I mean, we saw 5 seconds, right? It's like maybe 20 seconds altogether, right? So we can't really see. The locations look authentic, right? Like the walls even are the right color. They're that greenish tint with the, with the fungus growing on them and everything. Seeing the actual person inside there and knowing what that becomes, and thinking of seeing a clicker live action and all that stuff is going to be wonderful. We have also got Nick Offerman as Bill, which, a lot of people are like, oh, well, Pedro Pascal doesn't fit Joel, right? Like, I look more like Joel than he does.
You do.
And it's one of those things where it's like, will the performance outshine the physical appearance of the video game? Do I need him to look exactly like him? Do I wish they would have put a fake beard on him to be like a full beard like mine? 100%. Yeah. 100% I would have liked that. Maybe he'll grow one throughout the show. I don't think so. I think this is what we're going to get. Yeah. But, and then Bella Ramsey, she doesn't look like, Ellie. But I don't care. I mean, as long as they can embody the roles, I feel 100%. Like Pedro does a really good Joel voice. Yes. From, the one line we literally get. And we have big moments in the trailer, too. He doesn't want to give Ellie a gun. And then him passing that gun on to her in the game is a very big moment. Mm-hmm. It's a moment of trust. So that's cool to see him carrying Sarah, knowing what happens and all of that with that opening sequence. That's probably going to be the first episode. I'm going to hope that the first episode, spoilers, guys, for the games, so here we go. I'm going to hope that the first episode is, the outbreak, Joel, Sarah, Tommy, Sarah's death, end on that. End on Joel's heartbreak of Sarah's death. Yeah. I'm going to assume, though, we might start and then kind of go back.
That's a possibility.
I hope not, but I could see that. Only because it's hard to leave off on that death and then say 20 years later in the next episode. Yeah. I don't know. I don't care. That's what I want it to be.
But it could be like they start off right in 2022 during the outbreak and then jump to the future, so we don't know like what happens to Sarah, and then we have the flashbacks. Regardless of like where they start, I do think that the trailer shows that they're going like The Last of Us is a super emotional video game series. And I think that the clips that we see in the trailer highlight some of the emotional things that we're going to be exploring, which is like the father-daughter relationship, Ellie, and then even like seeing the fungus, like the spores. Obviously there's a lot of stuff that goes with, when people are turned and what exactly happens to them when they change. So I think it just encapsulates it really well.
One thing I really want to see explored really well in this show that they definitely do in the games, but they can really drive it home in here just to kind of add to the just how horrible all of this situation is that like when people turn, they're still conscious enough to know that what's going on is against their will.
It's
And
terrifying.
if you hear them in the game, they're whining and crying and upset
They're like, I don't want to
because
do
they don't
this.
have any control of their body anymore, but their emotions are still kind of there. And that's terrifying,
Oh my
right?
God,
And
worst
that
thing.
adds to it. So I really, really hope they focus on that. And I really hope they land not only the dramatic elements, right? Because that's the heart of the game is the father-daughter and the loss and the finding
Just, yeah,
yourself
making
and
connections in that kind of a environment, you know.
Right. But also, the game is also a horror survival game,
Yes.
right? And so they really needs to focus on horror and survival. And I think they'll do both well. I just really want to see this go and lean heavily into the horror. And I think
Absolutely.
that this can be the next Game of Thrones-esque in a way, because this series does have shocking deaths, and if you're able to play them correctly, I think it will really hit some people, like emotionally, and it'll
Oh,
piss a lot of people
absolutely.
off, like Game of Thrones does, right? So like that's why I feel like it's really important to end on Sarah's death, because it's so unexpected, and just kind of have that cold credits,
Yeah.
right? And then just nothing, no next on, just credits, and really let that sink into people, like, oh, this show isn't fucking around.
Well, and
Right?
it's
Because they don't know the
uh,
video games. 90% of the people who are going to be watching this don't know one fucking thing about the video games.
But to just like start off with Joel and his daughter, and just that like you said, like the loss and the cold ending of it, and all that means for Joel, like going forward with his story, and trying to be like the father that he wasn't allowed to be because of something against his will. Like it's just, it would be so good.
But
It would be so good
to
to
take
set
it back
that
to what you just said, I'm going to retweak that because this is very important. In the first game, the reason Sarah's death is so shocking, and the way that they need to be able to handle it within the show, is they make Sarah the playable character.
Yes.
Right? So everything is through her perspective. Right? So we follow Sarah like she's the main character. So when she dies, it's so shocking because Joel feels like a secondary character. He feels like the person who comes in and is going to be helping her through her journey. Right? You feel like you're going to follow Sarah.
Yes.
That's the way the game makes it feel. And that's the way they need to make the
Yes.
TV show feel.
We
It
need
needs
to
to make
follow
it look
her.
like, oh, so Sarah's the main
Yes.
character, Joel's her father, and he's going to be helping her through this, but we're going to be following her. And when she dies, it's going to be like, what the fuck? And that's going to really raise the stakes, right? It's going to really show people like, oh, I don't know what to expect from this show.
Mm-hmm.
So that can kind of get them in that mindset of when, eventually, hopefully, we get down to the Abby Joel death, right? So, and as far as Abby goes, this is something that I've wrestled with as far as like how they should approach that in the show. And yes, they 1,000% should do exactly what they did in the video games.
Yes.
I don't care what anyone else says. I wrestle with this because on one hand, I like how shocking and abrupt it is because of what it asks you as an audience to do, or as the player of the video games. It's asking you to put aside your biases and try to understand two sides of the story.
Yes.
When you follow this one cast of characters the entire time, and then there's this villainous character brought in, and she does something so drastic and so abrupt and so monstrous, and then you're like forced to stay with her and learn her past, and then go, oh shit, now that I see that, I'm starting to get it. I hated her, now I get it. So they can approach it like that they did in the video games, and I feel that it's super impactful because it's literally the point of the game, the folly of revenge, and that there's two sides, and if you're gonna go out for revenge, dig to grave, that kind of thing. But I also am kind of on the side of like, I would totally understand if they try to introduce Abby in the first season, build
Sure.
her character up, show her out with her father. So this kind of lessens the blow to the audience and we get to know her, and I feel like that wouldn't have had as bad of a response to the video game audience if they knew Abby, if Abby was an actual character in the first game, and then it like leaves off on her angry and Joel lying to Ellie, and kind of just like the betrayal that he's put into two girls.
I'm with you
Right?
on that. Like, I think that it would be better, like, more palatable for the audience to do it that way. But I do think that, like, having it done the way that it's done in the video games to some extent, where it's unexpected, where you don't know who that person is,
Yeah.
and you totally switch stories, even if it loses some people, like, I just think that it's so powerful.
Here's what
And
I
it does
fear.
such a good job.
This is what I fear. The Walking Dead was going real strong. It had a very strong audience. Everything was going pretty damn good, right? They were like the most popular show on television. And then the Glenn death happened.
But
And Negan
it's-
kind of came out of nowhere. And he beat a beloved character to death with a baseball bat.
But it's
This
like,
is almost near identical.
Yes.
She beats him to death with a golf club.
yeah.
And she's a kind of unknown character
But
who then you're
it's-
supposed to love later, like
I know, but like
right?
this is both of those are zombie post-apocalyptic scenarios, and that
This
is
is what I
exactly
fear and why they won't do it.
why
that way.
you should do it, because it makes it more realistic. People would die in those scenarios, and they're even.
But my
people
point
don't like
being-
the realism. They
my
want the
point
fantasy.
being
They want
is-
to escape.
Walking Dead lost almost half of its viewers over
Yes.
this. So you want to learn from that mistake. Even though I love that scene and I'm all for it and
It's so
shit,
brutal.
don't watch a fucking horror show if you don't want brutality. That being said, I do think that with that scene, it's going to have you have two things factoring in here. What I just said, you have a show that already did almost exactly the same thing in almost a very similar looking show, right?
Yeah.
It's a zombie post-apocalyptic show, the shocking death of a beloved character from this village. I already said all this stuff, right? So like you've got that thing going on, and you already lost half your audience doing that once, and then you've also got the added people are going to be like, oh, you're just trying to be like The Walking Dead.
I know,
Right? So
but
then you're
it's
going to lose even
not.
potentially more people because they're going to be like, you don't even have original ideas. And they're going to be like, oh, well, I mean, I don't, you know? And maybe that is where they got it because those Walking Dead comics came out before The Last of Us 2. I don't know.
I
But
don't know.
regardless,
Yeah.
I think they probably should introduce Abby in season 1. And I do think that we should have about 3 seasons before we get to the Abby killing Joel
I'm really
storyline.
curious about the pacing of the show, like what will happen in season 1, like how much ground we're gonna cover. Wouldn't be surprised if we end at them getting to Bill, like that's where they stop. But it seems like that's such a short chunk of the game, because it's like in the very beginning. But it kind of I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
how long it's planning on being aired for, but I would really like to see in the next trailer that's released, like, some zombies. I want to see some sporified people, like, moving around, maybe like a tiny glimpse of a clicker.
In
The next trailer.
the trailer,
In the next
sure.
trailer that's released.
I was like, you want to see a clicker till season 2? I was confused.
No,
I was like,
no,
holy shit,
just
you're out
in
of
the
your
next,
mind.
like, any promotional material that's
Sure.
released, I'd love to see just a little sliver of what they will look like.
Yeah, they'll have it, 100%. 100%. We'll hear the clicking
Oh my
in the
God.
darkness, and then we'll see it like turn around.
That'll cut.
Right, it'll be like, and then it'll kind of maybe run, and then it'll be like The Last of Us. That'll probably be the trailer. I could be totally wrong. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, as far as like where season 1 will end, if they do follow the games, because who knows? I mean, it's possible they don't follow the games.
Absolutely.
You know? I don't know. I'm assuming they'll follow the games pretty well.
Yeah.
I would only assume. But we've already discussed how people are gonna freak out because we've got a lot of things going on. We've already got Last of Us 2 haters who are just like, oh, you guys wait, oh my god. So they're already going to be out there, right? Like, this was a 50-50 Last Jedi kind of split of the audience where, you know, they went nuts. So that's already coming with Abby, and no matter what. And you're going to, and they're kind of like up against the wall, right? Because all the Abby lovers and all the Last of Us 2 lovers are going to be like, you're going to change this shit? Fuck you. I'm not in on that, right?
Sure.
And then you have the people who are like, don't do the Abby shit, and you're going to lose them. So you kind of already got your split. But as I said, I think about 90% of the people watching aren't even going to know anything about the video games. So you don't got to worry about that. As far as, like, where we're gonna go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see them getting through the first game in the first season. And ending with Joel lying and all that stuff.
I know.
But as far as what I was saying about the whole freaking out thing, you're also going to deal with, even though this is in both games, in the first game and then the DLC, you have Bill, who is, you know, gay, and we find out that, and he's going to have a lover that he's looking for. That's his whole storyline.
Yes.
And when it's revealed to be a guy, you're going to have, oh my god, this is so woke, even though we're just following subject.
Just,
The
It's just
source
a story.
material. And then, of course, Ellie is also gay as well.
Yeah.
And she has her romance in the mall with her girl. And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're going to freak out about that. But who cares? Where we're going to end, I could see them going up against the cannibals, right? And that kind of being where this all ends with him saving her, and then season 2 is where they end with like the sacrifice of her going into the hospital, and then he's bonded, because we're gonna need that bonding for like at least 3 seasons.
Yes.
Where then he dies, and then it's like, oh shit.
It
And
has to really be, yeah.
And then what do you do? Right? Because Bella Ramsey is young and little, and we need her to age up. We need her to age up a good amount, because Ellie is like much older in game 2.
Yes.
And she needs to be. And if she's going to go up against an Abby,
oh my
which,
god.
I don't know who they're going to cast as Abby, but
I'm like so excited to see all of it.
Chris Hemsworth as
Abby.
Abby.
Oh man, I'm just so excited to see even though, like, you know, when we play the games, it is like a movie. They look like real people to us, and like the voice acting is so phenomenal from everybody, and it's so immersive that it's like weird to be like, oh, I can't wait to see it live action, when it already feels like it exists, like it's real. So
I don't even know if this is necessary.
Yeah.
But I'm watching
I'm excited.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And if we can recommend anything, we definitely recommend going to Spotify and listening to The Last of Us Rarities with Joel and Ellie's singing some songs on their guitar. One of them, of course, being the song that Ellie sings in the teaser trailer for the original Last of Us 2.
Through the Valley.
Through the Valley.
So
fantastic stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're excited. I mean, and our expectations, I feel like we're going to be realistic, and hopefully we won't get too upset about anything. I just hope that they deliver a really faithful adaptation, but I don't need them to stick to every single line or anything, right? Like, they can change some things, but not the core.
Yes.
And don't try to please fans by, you know, changing things around so they don't get upset. Fuck them. You already lost them. I don't care.
Yeah.
Your storytelling in the first 2 games is phenomenal, in our opinion. And, you know, stick with that. And you should be good. But really extend this out. Show those years in Jackson when, you know, you got like 5 years to explore there.
Yeah.
Where there's this rift that starts being created. And we have a lot of unexplored territory there.
Exactly.
You've got multiple seasons. You can do whatever the hell you want, right?
For sure.
that's perfect. That allows Neil Druckmann and everybody from Naughty Dog to collaborate with the writers of this show and really flesh out those in between years, because Joel is alive during all that time.
Yes.
And his relationship with Ellie is kind of on and off, and you know, just having him like show her how to play guitar and stuff like that. We're gonna be suckers for any little thing. We're gonna be like, oh God, he got the guitar. Oh my God, it's gonna be nothing, and we're gonna be crying.
Oh, I'm gonna be just
And everyone's gonna be like, what? He just grabbed a guitar.
That's
We'll be like,
so
oh, you don't understand.
emotional.
Yeah.
You don't understand.
No.
Like,
No. But anyway, that's our thoughts.
yeah.
And we'll see you in the next trailer.
The next
Hopefully that's soon. But bye.
Bye.